The next thing we're going to be doing is making a hexagon pattern. We're going to be trying to make this hexagon pattern here that's in the front. To do that, we're actually not going to be using Blender, so you can go ahead and minimize Blender. I'm just going to close Blender so I have less programs running. You can just minimize it if you'd like to. And then we're going to open up GIMP. If you don't have GIMP, it's free, and I'll have a link in the description. You can download GIMP. And like I said, it's free, so you don't have to worry about anything. When you first open it up, it's not going to look like this. It's going to look different. To make it look like this, so it's all one window, you're going to go to Windows and choose Single Window Mode. When you first open it up, it's going to look more like this, probably with this like down here. You just want to go to Windows and choose Single Window Mode, and then drag this up, maximize it, and you'll have something similar to what I have. Next, you want to go to File, New, change the width and height to 32 pixels. You can change from pixels to whatever measurement right here, but we want pixels, so just leave it as pixels. Go to Advanced Options, and instead of Fill with Background Color, we want to click and drag to change this to Transparency, because we want it to be a transparent image or a transparent background. And then just click OK. To zoom in, press the plus key on your number pad. To zoom out, press the minus key. We just want to zoom in a whole bunch so we have a better view. I'm going to change to the pencil brush, and I'm also going to change the brush type from this one to the straight line here. And then we want to change the brush size to 1 pixel. It can be kind of hard to select all these numbers, but just try to select them, click and drag. Usually from right to left works best for me, and then press 1 to change it to 1, and press enter to confirm that that's what you want to do. And now we'll have a brush size of 1. As you can see, if you start clicking around, we have a brush size of 1. To undo these, you can just press Ctrl Z. It's the same as Blender. So just press Ctrl Z a bunch of times if you drew some stuff like I did. And we're going to switch this to the white color, so just click these 2 arrow thingies and it'll switch the foreground and background color. We just want it to be white. You can also click on the color and change it here, but it's already white, so I'm just going to click cancel. Now what we want to do is, to the best of our ability, try to make this pattern. And the reason I chose white actually is because white will allow you to use different shades of gray or even black if you want to. But if you start making your texture in black, the only color you can use is black. Like, you can't really, it's not easy to make it brighter, but it's a lot easier to make a white color darker. So we're going to use a white color. Even though this is a black color basically, it's going to give us a lot more ability to change the color easily if we start out with a white color. So basically with this hexagon pattern, you'll notice that it's wider than it is tall. And you'll also notice that if you look at one hexagon, just above it, or just at the center, is the left and right of the 2 hexagons that are above it. So the center point is also the end point of the ones above it. So that's what you want to be trying to recreate here. So what I did was basically start out with 1 hexagon. I started with just 2 spots here for the side, and then I did 3. Then I moved up 1 again and did 3 more. And for the center I just did 1 pixel, and then I did the reverse on the down to make it symmetrical basically. And then you're going to want to do the same on the bottom, of course, and this will give us the hexagon shape we're looking for. And then, like I said, this center point is actually the edge of the one that's above it. So the center point would be this right here. So it would have 2, and then it would go up like this. Whoops. See, if you make a mistake, Control Z, that undoes it. No problem. And once I'm done with this, you'll see that it should line up perfectly, basically. So we have this hexagon here as well as the original one, and they're both the same. And then you would have another hexagon here, just like this. And don't worry if you can't complete it, because we don't need the whole thing anyway. We only need part of this, so we should be fine. So whenever you're making a pattern, a lot of times it's better to do basically just half of this. So we're not going to keep all of this. This is just for like visual reference to try to make it look the same as the real thing. And then what you want to do is try to figure out how much of this you actually need in order to make a tileable pattern. And that's what we're going to try to do now. So we're going to go to this select tool and select all of our stuff here. And that's not going to work. It's not moving it the way it's supposed to. So I'm going to Control Z that. I don't use GIMP all the time, so I'm really not familiar with this. So I forget how I did it earlier, but yeah, let me see if I just move this. Alright, so I switched to this move tool, and that's going to let me move it. That's what I wanted originally. I kind of forget how I did this initially, because I did this like last week, but it's probably something along these lines. And then, so basically what we have here, what I was trying to do sort of, is like we have half of this top one here, and then we have half of the one below it, and we're going to want half of this one as well, and then half of the bottom one, I believe, is what we're going to try to go for. So we'll want to get rid of these, probably. I think if I just press delete now, yeah, so you use your selection tool, select all the stuff you want to delete, and then press delete on your keyboard. And the reason I deleted like these pieces that were over here is because when this tiles, these will get repeated over to here, and they'll be there anyway. So we didn't need the other ones, because if I left them, it would have been tiled 1 pixel over, and there would have been 4 instead of 2. And if you're not really sure like what I'm talking about, the best thing is to just play around with it, and experience is the best teacher when it comes to making tileable patterns like this. So just try things out. If it doesn't work, that's fine. Try something different and keep making adjustments. But now I'm going to delete the bottom half of this, but actually I think I need that other, I think I need both of these here. Well, actually, no, I don't, because I have this one right here. So I don't need both of these, I don't think. So I'm going to select these and delete them by pressing delete, and hope that this works. If it doesn't, you know, it's fine. But now what we want to do is select this, I think, is how you do it. layer maybe, or image. Fit canvas to selection, I think. And then image, or maybe is that fine? I don't remember. Fit canvas to layers, no. Undo that. I think this will be fine. I think this is what we need. I just pressed Control-Z to undo the last thing I did. So it's fit canvas to selection. And we'll see if this works. So this is what I have. And what I'm going to do to save it as a pattern, first we need to know where to save it. So we want to go to Edit, Preferences. And down here is the folders thing, so just click the little plus thing that was there to open up the folders thing. And you'll notice we have all the brushes, the dynamics, the patterns, palettes, etc. All these different fun things that you can add, and then some of the stuff already exists. So we're going to go to Patterns. And this is the folder that's selected for GIMP to look into. Whenever GIMP starts, this is where it looks for patterns. So for me, it's users, Steven, GIMP 2.8, patterns. So that's where we want to save it. Yours is probably going to be a little bit different. So you want to look at yours, try to figure out what it is, and we're going to go to that folder real quick and save this pattern. So users, Steven, GIMP 2.8 patterns. And so I'm going to click cancel, and then go File. And for a pattern, you have to actually export it instead of saving it. So we're going to export. So I'm going to click on Steven, GIMP 2.8, and find patterns, go down to patterns. I already have a few that I made for other stuff, don't worry about that. And we want to give this a name. So we're going to call it like, I'm going to call it McLaren. Well, usually another thing is when you name it, if you give it this A first, it'll show up first in your list down here when you select this patterns thing, which I'm not going to do right now, but putting the A will make it show up at the beginning of the list rather than somewhere in the middle, because of course it's alphabetized, so A comes first. So A, and I'm just going to name it McLaren Hexagon pattern. And I guess that's fine. And instead of saving it as a PNG, you want to save it as a PAT, which stands for pattern. So you have the name of your thing with a period and then PAT. That's what you want to be able to save it as a pattern. And then click export. It's going to have this little pattern dialog box, and for a description I'm just going to do the same thing. So A McLaren Hexagon pattern, and then click export, and that should do it. So now we have our little pattern thing. You can also save this pattern in case you want to edit it later. You can go to File, Save As, and you can save it wherever you want. I've actually got a special folder I use, but you can make your own folder, save it wherever you want. I've got mine in my art stuff folder and my GIMP stuff. And I'm just going to save it with the name that it already has, a McLaren Hexagon pattern .xcf, which is the the file type that GIMP uses, so I'm going to save that. So now that we have that saved in case we want to change it later, in case it doesn't work or something, we're going to go to File, New, and this time we want to do width and height of 2048. And again, we're going to go to Advanced Options, and background color is going to be changed to Transparency. And we're going to click OK. That'll open up a new thing. So we have our old one here and our new one. This is a new one to test our pattern. So to see our patterns, we click on this little thing which says Patterns. And since we just created this pattern, you're not going to see it anywhere. Like if you drag this up and down, you won't see our new pattern anywhere. You're going to have to click this refresh button. And then it should be at the top somewhere. Like, here it is. A McLaren hexagon pattern. It's all white for me, which is fine. I mean, it's kind of hard to tell what the pattern is, but we know what it is. So now we're going to go to the bucket tool and change it to pattern fill, and it's already on the McLaren hexagon pattern because we already selected it over here. And we're just going to left click. Looks a little funny. You can't really see a whole lot. If you zoom in with the plus, you'll start to see our hexagon pattern. And it was the plus key on the number pad to zoom in. So you can see now our pattern, and it looks to be functioning correctly. We have one hexagon here, and just above it, the center line is both the left and right of these two hexagons. So it's basically the same design as what we have over here, and it's also wider than it is tall, so it looks like we've done a decent job of recreating this pattern. So since everything is working, what we're going to do is File and export this. I'm just going to export to my desktop. And give it a name. So like McLaren hexagon pattern. Should be fine. Export it. Oh, whoops. Cancel this actually, because we have to change this from PAT to PNG and then export it. So you want these last three to be PNG, then click export, and then click export again. And that should do it. And by the way, I probably should have said this before, but the GIMP version I'm using is GIMP 2.8.18. You can use a newer version, or probably even an older version will work. Shouldn't make too much of a difference. So, and we don't have to save this because all we did really was select the bucket tool, select our pattern, make sure it was on pattern fill, and click. It's pretty simple to reproduce these results, but you can save it if you want. You can go to File, Save, and save it as an XCF. But I don't really think it's necessary. I mean, you can do it if you want, but for now I'm just going to minimize these. And here's our pattern. It doesn't look like much, but believe me, the information that we need is right there. So we're going to go to our low poly car folder. We can actually just drag it to there, and that should be fine, I think. So just click and drag on this to our low poly car folder, and the pattern will get moved into that folder. So now we do need Blender, but we don't need GIMP, so I'm going to go to GIMP and close this stuff. I'm going to discard the changes because I don't want to save this one as I just talked about. I don't really need to save it because I know how to do it again if I need to. And we're going to open up Blender. Yours may be already open. If you just minimized it, you can just maximize it again. And the reason I didn't have screencast keys down here is because for some reason it was actually conflicting with GIMP and making it so that GIMP was not working properly. So I had to disable it. So I hope that wasn't too much of an issue. I did try to explain everything that I did. But now we want to open up our McLaren file if it's not already open for you. So this is basically what we had before we started doing all this. And I'll just turn on my other screencast keys right now, and that should be fine. So what we want to do to import that texture, that pattern that we have, we want to go up here, middle mouse and drag to pull this over. Click on the texture thingy. Go down to a blank texture. Click New. Click on Open. Go to our desktop. Go to the low poly car folder. Find the McLaren Hexagon pattern. Open it. And now it's over here. And now just, I guess, to show you how this works, we'll go down here, click on this triangle to open up the textures menu, click on this image here, and select this texture. Now what we want to do is select this and change it to stencil. And now when we hover our mouse over this window, you can see our pattern. To move the pattern around, you can simply right click and drag it around. To scale the pattern, you hold Shift and right click. That will scale your pattern up and down. And I know, again, it doesn't look like the pattern is correct. Like, this looks all fuzzy, but it turns out okay, so you just have to trust me. You'll see in a second here. I thought it looked a little weird the first time I tried it too, but if you ever want to get out of this, you can just click this, no, not that X, click this X to close your texture, and that'll get rid of it. And we're going to change this back to anything else other than stencil, like tiled. Alright, so first what we're going to do before we actually use our texture is we have two different colors here. We have this black that's behind the hexagon, which covers basically the entire bottom. And then closer to the top there's this gray plastic, slightly a lighter color than the black that's down in the bottom. Or at least that's kind of the way it seems. Like this is a grayer plastic and this is just darker stuff. Maybe it's just the lighting, but that's how we're going to make it. So we want to do that first. So we want to go to Face Selection. And we're going to start selecting all the faces, not the light itself. All the other faces like this. By holding Shift and just clicking until you get all the faces. I think that's what we need right there. But we also want these two down here. And you want to do the same on the other side, so continue holding Shift and right clicking until you get all of these faces. that we need. That should be all of them, I do believe. Now what we want to do is go to the top and select the color, probably this one. Make our brush bigger. And I hope it's still, nope, it's on line, so I'm going to put it on space brush. And we're just going to color this in. And we'll see how this turns out. Do the same on the other side. We may or may not want a lighter color than that, I'm not sure. But I guess for now that's fine. So we also need a lighter color for that top part, the gray part, and I'm going to switch to the line brush. So I chose this color. I'm going to switch it to 5 pixels on the radius. 1 for front view so we get a nice straight on view, and then switch it back to face selection. And we want to look at where this starts, so it's below this part here, that orange tip, somewhere below that, and at the end of the light basically. So this is at the end of the light, and it goes basically somewhat straight over, so it's basically here. This is the end of the light, so it would go like this. So I'm just going to click and drag a semi-straight line. I'm not sure if it's perfectly straight on the real thing, so I'm just going to not make it straight, and we'll see how it goes. Now we want to go back to the space brush. You can use F to make your brush bigger and fill this in. See how it looks. Maybe a bit darker color for the light for that one. Instead of this one, use one of these maybe. Try this one, I guess. I think it should be a bit darker, so I'm going to go to 5 pixels. Go back to the line brush, 1 on the number pad for front view, and we'll try this again. Actually, I can do Control Z to just get rid of these colors real quick, so that I don't have to worry about trying to overlap it perfectly. Then switch back to the space brush, do the same thing. F to make your brush bigger, fill this in. This is probably a little closer to reality because the contrast is not as much as it was with the first 2 colors. At least that's my perception. Like, it looks like these 2 colors, like this dark black and this grayer color, like this isn't as light as what we had it, I don't think. Like, this looks a little closer to what it would be, I think. But you could also make a different color if you wanted. Curious to see how it will look with this slighter light color, so I'm going to try this. Because I'm not entirely happy with this color, it's too close to this one, I think. So Control Z again, get rid of those brush strokes, switch to face select mode, make another line, and you can feel free to use whatever color you want. This is simply just preference, you know, trying to get the colors to look the way you want them. And this one may be too close to the original color. Just gonna take a quick look at that. But I may leave it that way anyway, because I don't want it to be too contrasted there, I don't think. So I may just leave this I'm going to undo that because I went over the line a little, even though it was hard to tell that I actually went over the line because these colors are so close. But I could tell that I had some, because when you're just drawing, it'll make this like fuzzy edge, and when you do the line brush, it's really nice and smooth, but this is all fuzzy. I could just tell there was a little bit of fuzziness on the bottom, so it sort of tipped me off that I probably went over the line a little bit without noticing. So that's not too bad. It's basically close in color, but it's enough that there's a difference. So I'm just going to stick with that. But don't forget, we have to do the other side. So make sure you're in face select, 1 on the number pad. We're going to go back here to the line brush, set the radius to 5 pixels, and we're going to make sure we do this similar to the other side. So start at the bottom of the light here, so right here basically. I've been angling it down a little, I think, so that's how I'm going to do it. Back to the space brush, F to make your brush bigger, start drawing, painting, whatever. That should be good. Take a look at it, make sure you get both sides relatively close. Close enough, I think. I do see some white pixelation here, not sure why. See right here, it's all white and pixelated. So we'll take a look at that. So we have to go into edit mode to figure out where these are. So we're going to go to edit mode, go into this view, press period. That didn't work. You got to do middle mouse here, switch it from paint view to view. Now press period on the number pad. These are the ones we need to change. So switch it to paint, go back to texture paint. Try to remember which ones those were. I had to zoom out a lot to get to that part. We still should have the same color, so I'm just going to make it smaller by pressing F, the brush smaller. And I'm going to just paint in this area to try to get rid of that pixelation. Looks like we still got some at the tip. So right here at the tip, you can see it sort of going away slowly as I start making more lines in that area. So you just want to look around, like we have more pixelation here, but I'm not sure if we can correct that. We'll see. Because that's probably the other part of the car that's having that issue right there. I'm not going to worry about that too much. But you do want to make sure you get this other side, like we have more pixelation even in this darker part too. So you want to make sure you do this one up top too. Just try to eliminate any pixelation by adding some extra bleed around here. And really try to get it as close to the tip as you can to make sure that this is the whole thing has the correct color. I think I did a pretty decent job. So we're going to have to do this darker part too. I'm just going to press and hold S and then let go over this color to select this color. Make my brush a bit bigger, and I'm going to try see, now it's gone, so I covered up that part that I needed to. So just make sure you get the rest of it if you want, just to cover ourselves, make sure the whole thing is all set here. Just be careful as you get closer to other areas that you don't put the wrong color where it's not supposed to be. That one looks good. I'm going to go down and do the other one, because there's probably some pixelation on this side too, or some, yeah, right there. It's not as bad as the other one, but still, we want to fix it. That should be good. So now that's all fine and dandy. Everything looks decent on both sides. Now we're going to add in our hexagon pattern. So to do that, we still have the correct area selected. We want the same area selected, so we're fine. We just have to make sure this is on. We're going to leave it on the space brush. Whoops. Go to our texture, select our texture. Switch it to stencil. Now we get our stencil. We're going to press 1 on the number pad to go to front view. I'm just going to zoom in a little here and move my view around. So we can't really tell what the end result's going to look like yet, but once we draw it on there, you'll see what it looks like. It's kind of a lighter gray, this mesh part, so we're going to want to make it lighter than both of these colors that we used. Maybe this color. We'll try it again. Go to 50 pixels or anything. Any bigger brush size is fine. And now I'm just going to try painting on this. And we'll see what happens. Just paint over the whole surface. Then click on this. And get out of your stencil mode. Choose anything other than stencil. And you can take a look at it. You can see like this is not looking correct. So that's fine. We're just going to Control Z it. Go back to stencil mode. Make sure you're in face select. Make our stencil bigger by holding shift and right clicking to scale it, and then try it again. We'll see how this looks. I think it's got to be bigger than that, so I'm going to get out of stencil mode, get out of face select. You can see now we get this hexagon pattern, so now it's starting to look like what it's supposed to look like, even though up here is kind of all messy and that looks wrong. But I think I want to adjust the size of it anyway. So I'm going to make sure I'm in front view by pressing 1 on the number pad, go back to stencil, go back to this, make it a little bigger, start painting over again. You can make your brush bigger if you want to, so that you can paint this a little quicker. Take another look, and we're still getting this really strange, that's kind of awkward and annoying at the same time. Why is that happening? And yeah, I guess the hexagon pattern does continue on up there. So it's because these are like, these UVs are kind of stretched, I guess. So we may have to just redo those UVs if we want to fix that. I'm going to just try real quick stenciling this side. But I'm guessing it's going to have the same issue on this side as it does on the other side. So we may have to redo all those UVs. Yeah, it's just really stretched on that part of the car. So I think we're going to have to redo both of those in edit mode. So I'm going to go to edit mode, switch this to view, period to focus in on it, and we're going to just real quick press U, unwrap, We could actually just put these on top of each other. So I'm going to press G and then Y to drag them over here, because it's going to be mirrored anyway. Like, we want the left to be the same as the right, so we can put these on top of each other. I'm going to select one of these, press L to select the whole thing, S, Y, -1, and now press enter, then R, 90, right click to undo that, R, -90, and now we have the same shape. So we're going to press G, hold Control, and snap it up here, left click to confirm. Now they're both on top of each other, which means they will share the same exact texture, so we won't have to do it twice anymore. We will just have to do it once. Now we're going to press B to box select everything, because now there's two sets of faces. You'll see now we have the left and the right both selected. So we're going to press G and bring this down. Bring it down again with G, and we want to find a good spot for it. We can press S to scale it down, and we can basically, you know what we can actually do? I'm going to press G and move this over real quick. Select one of these, press L to select the whole thing, G and then Y to drag this up. Make sure it's not overlapping any other faces. And actually, which part of the car was this? I'm not sure. This is the fin, which is not colored yet, so moving it's not going to be a problem. So that's fine to move that. Except that oh, well, don't worry about this strange coloring. That's alright, that's just because the UVs are in the wrong spot. So now we're going to go back to edit mode. Select one of these, then we're going to press B to box select to get all of them. And put this down here, scale it down with S. Try to fit it in this space as best as possible, using R to rotate, S to scale. Try to maximize the texture space here. That should be good. Now we go back to texture paint. It's all back to white. Nothing has changed. Switch this to paint. And interestingly, all that color is gone that was there, I guess. That's fine with me. I didn't really want it anyway, so I don't know why that happened, but yeah, that's fine. It's cool. So I'm going to leave this on space. I'm actually going to get rid of this texture because we have to do the other part again. So I'm going to go back to this color. Make sure I'm in this mode. Face select. Paint over all this. And you'll notice it does both sides, so now we don't have to do both sides. Yay! Right, okay. So back to, well, I think it was this color. I'm not even sure anymore. No, it must have been this color. Yep, because it was only slightly lighter. Use the line brush. Set it to 5 pixels. 1 on the number pad to go to front view. Start at the tip of the light. Drag it down. I'm just checking because the color is wrong right here. So I probably should go back and go to the space brush real quick. Select this color with S. Make my brush bigger and try filling this in because I didn't fill all of it in. I just kind of quickly did it and made a mistake that it wasn't all filled in, so Make sure you fill all of it in first. That's kind of important. Alright, that's good enough. So 1 again to go to front view. Back to the line brush. Oh, and I used the wrong color. Okay. No, I didn't. Because I used S to select it. Okay, we're good. So switch this to 5 pixels. Make the line, make it bigger. Space brush. Use F to change your brush size if you need to. That's what I did when I said make it bigger. And we're good to go. That looks a lot better. Still some pixelation we're gonna have to fix. So we're gonna have to do the same over here on which side? I'm not sure. This side? Change your brush size with F. Start drawing. No, it actually should be the inside, I think. It's starting to go away, so we're getting there. Whoops. Looks good. Do the same with the other colors. Press S to select it. I don't really think we need to go around the whole thing, but I'm going to do it anyway just because. I just used S to select the other color to finish off this. And since there weren't any faces here, it was okay to draw over this other gray color, because these white lines are the faces. This was just extra bleed that we added earlier to the other part of the car, so... And that was pretty far away from the original faces, so I doubt that we needed it to be that far out anyway. So drawing over it in that case probably didn't do anything destructive to the other part. So that should be fine. Looks fine, everything's good, we're happy. Press 1 in the number pad. Still on the space brush, we're going to go back to our texture. We're going to switch to this color it was, I guess. 50 pixels. Texture needs to be on stencil. Make sure you're in face selection. Start drawing your stencil thingy. And we'll see how it looks. Hopefully better than the other one. Yes, it's working. Awesome. That's what we wanted. Success at last. So you can make these as big as you want or as small as you want. Just hold Shift and S when you have the stencil on to scale it. Even though these hexagons are a little bit bigger in the real picture, they kind of don't look so great here, which is partially how we made our pattern, but I think if we scale it down some and Control Z to undo the other one, and we just paint over this again, it'll probably look a little better when it's smaller, even though the real thing has it as larger things. It's probably just going to look a little better if you have it with the smaller ones. So even though it's not totally realistic, I think I might make it a little bigger than that, but Even though it's not totally realistic. Whoops, I don't even know what I did right there. Oh, I guess if you press A while you're hovering over one of these things, it actually opens and closes it. That's something I didn't know, so that's kind of interesting. So you can press A while you're hovering over one of these tabs, I guess you can call them. That's not big enough either, so I'm going to make it bigger. Big enough to make sure that they can see that there's a pattern there and we put effort into this area, but not big enough that they can see it's not really the highest quality texture. So I think something like that is going to be okay. It's not the best, not the worst. It's enough where if people zoom in, they'll say, "Oh, hey, look, there's a mesh pattern there." So like I said, make it bigger if you want, make it smaller if you want, change the background colors if you want. Those are optional. For now, I think that's going to be it for this part. So we're going to go ahead and save this real quick. Go to Image, Save as Image. Save it as whatever name you had before. And go to File and save your Blender file.